All right, Ellis Cinema back, another dish. How we doing out there? Good, great, and wonderful. As you see on your screen, your dial, however you are choosing to join us today, I know the filmmakers appreciate you. Monster. This one came out last year, one of my favorites of last year, and it's so awesome that Well Go USA Entertainment was able to get the rights for this and release it, because it's always nice to do a giveaway for a movie that you thought kind of it's so authentically its own that I'm surprised that we're not talking about it more. I'm surprised we didn't talk about it at the Oscars more. Like, that's how good Monster was, a Japanese film for last year. So what is Monster? After a mother, played by Ando Sakura, discovers that a teacher's bullying is behind her young son's sudden strange behavior, she storms into the school demanding an explanation. Continually left without satisfactory answers and with an increasingly distressed child, she furiously escalates her concerns to the school board and the media. But as the story unfolds through the multi-layered perspectives of mother, teacher, and child, the real truth gradually emerges and proves much more complex than anyone could have expected. And yes. That is a big yes from your boy. Did not see it shaking out the way that it did. Talk about a beautiful disaster that left me and mine in shambles. We were a wreck when we got done watching this movie. So, this is actually directed by Hirokazu Kore-eda. If you guys don't know him, he actually did another one of my favorite films in the past 10 years, which was Shoplifters. But he's also done Like Father, Like Son, Still Walking, Nobody Knows, Broker, The Third Murder. He's done a lot, but Shoplifters, like I said, one of my favorites in the past 10 years. And now he owns the title of two of my favorites in the past 10 years. And as aforementioned, it stars Sakura Ando. Sakura Ando is, holy fuck, how talented this lady is. Again, she was in Shoplifters. You might have seen her in Godzilla -1. Props to Godzilla -1 for her walking home with an Oscar. She's been in Badlands, Fight Song, A Man. Her acting is next level. You know how they say Tom Hanks is the best on-screen thinker? She's up there. Sakura Ando is up there, where I see so much unraveling without her saying a word, so much unraveling, dissecting going on in her eyes, and I'm just, it's like the last couple films I've talked about. I'm just happy to be a part of film these days in some sort of weird roundabout way. Every year, and I was just having this conversation not too long ago, every year I think movies are going to hit a lull and it's going to be shit, and, you know, we're going to finally start seeing the falling of cinema. Now, if you read headlines and you look at the news, you would think that cinema is failing across the board. I'm here to tell you, every year, every fucking year for the last like 10, 12 years, I always go, well, you're an idiot. There is no signs of slowing down with just good quality movies. And I'm glad, even though it annoys me, some of you fair weather fucks out there that got hip to foreign films after you've seen Parasite, I'm still happy that Parasite made people start looking at films outside of the U.S. and not specifically anime. I got people now that are come up to me, hey, I watched this foreign film, and it's a beautiful thing to see, even though I'm annoyed. I feel like you're a fair weather fuck, but that's okay. That's okay. So Monster is directed by Hirokazu Kore-eda, written by Yuji Sakamoto, and like I said, starring Sakura Ando, Eita Nagayama, who did a magnificent job as the teacher Hori. Everybody in this, as I'm going down the cast list, everybody in this is so good. So back to the teacher Hori, played by Eita Nagayama, not Elta. Nagayama. Minato, who is one of the children, is played by Soya Kurokawa. Soya Kurokawa. Fantastic. Wrecked my heart. And maybe not as much as the next person I'm going to mention, which absolutely just floored me. The character of Yori was played by Hinata Hiiragi. Wow. Almost flatlined me, gang. I'm not kidding you. Almost flatlined me. That's how good the performance between the two kids were. Holy cow. Hirona is played by Mitsuki Takahata. Shoda is played by Akihiro Kakuta. And then Kayotaka was played by Shido Nakamura. And then Fushimi, played by Yuko Tanaka, which I believe was the principal at the school where some of this takes place. Eerie Yuko's performances. Eerie. We got music by Ryuji Sakamoto. I have actually talked about him on this show before. We got cinematography by Ryuto Kondo. Also, who did the editing was our director, Hirokazu Kore-eda. Gang. Wellgo has brought you I shouldn't say a banger. I can't believe that's how fucking stupid I am and why I shouldn't have a podcast. I was about to say a banger. This is not a banger. This one stings. This one cuts so fucking deep. Like, at the end, like, and most of the time, because I'm a pure cinephile, I don't know if I'm a good quality one, but I do consider my cinephile to some degree. I always watch the credits, but it's something completely different when you have people who aren't cinephiles, or, you know, they can kind of take or leave movies. It's not the first priority of things to do like it is mine. When they are sitting and watching every credit roll, that's how good it was. So, at first, the Japanese juvie drama Monster seems to be a tragedy about a troubled, maybe dangerous preteen. Little things about Minato Mugiano, again played by Soya Kurokawa, stand out to his single mom. Little things about Minato stand out to his single mom. Played by Sakura Ando, so stand out to his single mom, Sayori. Like a new haircut and a cut over Minato's right ear. Some of these might be read as signs of a problem, like when Minato asks his mom if she thinks a person would still be human if they received a pig brain transplant. I know it sounds weird, gang, but I promise you, it's not pure drama. Minato also sings to himself a phrase that hangs over the rest of the movie like a slow-breaking rain cloud. Who's the monster? Who's the monster? Sayori is convinced that something's up with Minato, so she keeps after her son until he admits that he was physically attacked by his homeroom teacher. How the fuck do you get attacked by your homeroom teacher? Homeroom, you should just be fucking around. You must have been really fucking around. What am I doing? This is not the movie to crack jokes. Admits that he was physically attacked by his homeroom teacher, Mr. Hori, played by Eita Nagayama. Wow, also good. Heartbreakingly good. Sayori's heard and seen enough to pursue Hori. So the mom. Sayori's heard and seen enough to pursue Hori. And her reading of events is apparently confirmed by the insincere apologies she gets from him and the school's reserved principal, Makiyaku Fushimi, played by Yuko Tanaka. And like I said, haunting. How eerily dull kind of some of her responses to some of the accusations being made, and hauntingly heartbreaking. At this point, the plot of Monster, which was scripted by the celebrated TV writer Yuji Sakamoto, it shifts focus to Hori's perspective. So we got multiple perspectives going on here. I love the way that it's done. I love the time shifting. There's ways that you can do it wrong, and there's ways that you can do it right, and it's beyond right here. Anyway, the shift focuses to Hori's perspective, which is the homeroom teacher. the homeroom teacher, played by Eita Nagayama. Eita Nagayama. As you might expect, Minato hasn't told his mother the whole truth. Why would I expect that? I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that at all. Some school bullies are also involved, and so is Yori Hoshikawa. Yori Hoshikawa, played by Hinata Hiiragi, as well as Yori's withdrawn father, Shido Nakamura, which, in it very briefly, you've seen him before. So good. If you watch foreign films, you've seen Shido before. So good. There's also obviously more to the principal's seeming indifference and Hori's defensive skittishness, though not enough to paint a tidy picture of either character. So this is the early going in the film where we're kind of like, what the hell is going on? Is this child wacky? Is he being abused at school? Is he being bullied? What's going on? However, we learn about what's really going on with Minato and Yori, two close friends who live in their own semi-private fantasy world. And it's beautiful, gang. Their fantasy world, it's beautiful. It's heartwarming. Anyway, based on the short synopsis, you might imagine that Monster is a sort of middle school Mystic River. If you guys have seen Mystic River, Sean Penn, that inevitably casts a very broad sort of blame on yet another small community of blinkered loners. Thankfully, while Monster depends on dramatic irony and revelatory twists, it's also a showcase for director Hirokazu Kore-eda, whose knack for collaboration brings out the best in his actors. And I mean, you want to talk about, well, I'll finish this, who brings out the best in his actors, especially his younger cast members. To better serve this story, Kore-eda focuses on the impressionistic, revealing details about Minato and his mom, as well as Fushimi and Hori. So you want to talk about having the respect of your peers. So this is about the composer, Ryuichi Sakamoto. Ryuichi Sakamoto committed to produce music for the film. However, Sakamoto did not have the physical strength to accept the offer to create an entire score. However, at the direct request of Kore-eda, he submitted 2 piano pieces. He used songs from his 2023 album named 12 and old songs to compose the whole soundtrack. In a commentary, Sakamoto stated that the film deals with an esoteric theme and that it was difficult to discern who the eponymous monster was. According to Kore-eda, the collaboration with Sakamoto was a long-time wish that finally came true. During filming and editing, he listened to Sakamoto's music in his hotel room, and ultimately Sakamoto ended up dying of cancer not too long. Actually, it might have actually been before this release. So Sakamoto died of cancer on the 20th of March of last year. But something to put in perspective, when you're that good, you're producing pieces that are unlike anybody else's dramas these days. It's a testament to just how fucking good Hirokazu Kore-eda is. So, anyway, still, Monster isn't really about who really did what or why. A lot is explained, and a few are implicated, but not everything and not everyone. Sayori doesn't become pigeonholed as a villain after we learn that she was wrong to attack both Hori and Fushimi without knowing the whole truth. And while Fushimi gives a kind speech at the end, her unyielding response to Sayori's desperate questions also doesn't look much better in hindsight after we've gotten to know her better. Like I said, eerie, gang. Fucking eerie. A nesting doll narrative like Monster seems to encourage viewers to cast their own judgment or maybe even share the impossible emotional burden of these characters. And when Simon Abrams, who wrote this for RogerEbert.com, couldn't have hit the nail on the head more so than that. Like, It doesn't get better. You keep waiting. It's not as bad as fucking Tar, where, like, you're waiting for some sort of redemption or even our main character to get what for, and that just doesn't come to fruition. Whereas, and actually I felt empty after I watched Tar, and I know that that's the fucking point, but in this one, I felt full, but with an incredible sadness after I got done with Monster. A nesting doll narrative like Monster seems to encourage viewers to cast their own judgment or maybe even share the impossible emotional burden of these characters. Who could have known or really seen everything that happened, and why didn't everybody respond better? However, what's really striking about Kore-eda's latest is his diligent attention to mood and a credible sort of subjective reality. I'm going to read that for you again because Simon killed it. However, what's really striking about Kore-eda's latest in his diligent attention to mood and a credible sort of subject reality. Let me say that better. What's really striking about Kore-eda's latest is his diligent attention to mood and a credible sort of subjective reality. And as usual with Kore-eda, a question like, who's the monster, is misleading, since, as we see, there's nothing more or less real about Minato, Yori, or their teacher once we learn what they did and where they're coming from. Instead, Monster ties a group of outsiders together by not their mutual experiences, but by their search for meaning and how they look at and care for each other. One more time. Instead, Monster ties a group of outsiders together not by their mutual experiences, but by their search for meaning and how they look at and care for each other. It's incredible to see a complex character like Hori seemingly exposed as an uncaring creep in an establishing scene, like when he blows his nose or makes insinuating comments about Sayori, and then summarily complicated rather than completely vindicated or dismissed in later scenes. Monster is also a typical Kore-eda movie in that it's ultimately about the elusive world of two young children who live in the immense shadow of their adult guardians. You can tell what kind of movie this is just by listening to the sunny, melancholic piano and synthesizer score, a mix of two new compositions and some older pieces by the recently deceased Ryuichi Sakamoto. Sakamoto, and this is so true, Sakamoto's music swoons and pulses with a subtle and, in his words, esoteric complexity. His playing beautifully expresses Minato and his loved ones' mutual loneliness without succumbing to normal conventions or platitudes. It's mood music, which can be easy to take for granted in a movie where the plot seems most important. Monster, by the way, Monster won Best Screenplay at this year's Cannes Film Festival. Anyway, still, Sakamoto's music complements Kore-eda's keen direction and general consideration for individuals who tend to struggle in private and only sometimes see themselves beyond who they're with. It is a shame they'll never work on another movie together, but it's a real pleasure to see and hear their only collaboration. Monster is available now. You can get the Blu-ray. Like I said, it was released by Wellgo USA. I wanted to read you. So all the reviews on this, with the exception of like one, are overwhelmingly positive. I wanted to read a couple to you. Does it matter that there is such ambiguity? Holy cow. Ambiguity about the film's ending? Perhaps not as much as you might expect. What do we got? Times UK. Clarity gradually arrives, and the film, like all Kore-eda's best work, submerges itself in a heartfelt humanism that is quite understanding. I have been known to throw a shoe at the screen when the plot device stops anyone uttering the few words that will clear everything up in 1 minute flat, but Kore-eda, who has films such as Shoplifters on his CV, can get away with it, and does. What do we got? Financial Times? I don't know why you're talking about movies, but all right, Financial Times. The performances drawn from child actors Kurokawa and Hinata Hiiragi are perfect. While their section of the film takes place in colors so bold and vivid it feels as if only children see the world that way. Another layer of this film that's so good. Thanks to Kore-eda, so can we. Monster is Hirokazu Kore-eda's channeling Christopher Nolan. Twisty storytelling in the service of wise empathy. I don't know that I agree with that. I thought it was really beautiful, says Christy from Breakfast All Day. And we got another review from Breakfast All Day, but this one's from Alonzo. It is a really beautiful film about growing up. Is it? This is why I go over something. I love reacting to this. I don't know that I don't agree with that. It goes into some unexpected emotional areas that I was not ready for, and that really caught me by surprise and I found very moving. Boo. Kore-eda, no stranger to working with children, has captured an indelible depiction of early adolescence, with Kurokawa and Hiiragi giving two of the most profoundly genuine performances on film. 100%. That's from Josh at the Austin Chronicle. Absolutely. Without their on-screen chemistry, the movie fails. Do I mean that? Yeah, I think I mean that. Without their chemistry, like, you can put two other actors in there, but if they don't have the chemistry that those two had, this movie, I'm not going to say it falls flat on its face. It's too technically sharp, too well executed to fall flat on its face. But I do think I would go from saying it's one of my favorite movies in the past 10 years to being like, it's a really good movie. So, a heartfelt, dramatically involving tale hampered by programmatic structure? No. Programmatic structure? No. It's not. Oh, you guys baffle me. Thanks, Ty Burr from Ty Burr's Watch List. How is that structure programmatic? How is it formulaic? I don't get it. Anyway, all right, so Boston Globe, they did not like it. It's been a long time since I've seen a movie so fully collapse in its third act as this one does, and it does so without warning. I think you might have missed the point there, Odie. Odie Henderson from the Boston Globe. I urge you to go back and watch that, buddy. It's supposed to fall apart at the end. Like all of us watching it. We all fucking fell apart at the end. Real views. Monster touches on many different aspects of the human experience. It's challenging, but neither inaccessible nor impossibly dense. I would agree with that. Despite its sometimes overwrought mystery tale gambits, however, Monster ultimately shifts from a saga of fateful misunderstanding to one of mutual comprehension. This is why movies is great. I love knowing what everybody else saw or how everybody else walked out of their feeling. All right, LA Times. A one-truth movie that's nevertheless thick with human complexity. It rotates nimbly in tandem with the plaintive score that marks the great Ryuichi Sakamoto's last film work. This film maintains interest despite it being more than 2 hours. What? Oh my god, dude. I'm so tired of people banging on run times. It's ridiculous. That's why I liked how Simon Abrams from RogerEbert.com, how his review read, which is why I used it for today's show. Kind of encompassing, I just kind of thought that it gave a good depiction of what Monster really is about. Monster is one of the finest films of the year, and its structure, like its circle of characters, carries secrets that can only be unraveled through patience and empathy. Natalie Winkleman from New York Times. Absolutely. Monster is one of the finest films of the year, and its structure, like its circle of characters, carries secrets that can only be unraveled through, hear me gang, patience and empathy. Anthony from the New Yorker says, if possible, watch Monster more than once. I agree. The Daily Beast, one of the director's finest, its thematic scope and emotional power growing with each new revelation. I'm just now realizing I should have had Kyle on here for this one. I am pretty sure he loved this movie, and Kyle Bruhl from I Know Movies and You Don't can offer a much more inspiring and detailed look than a lot of these top critics are. What did Variety say? Peter de Bruges from Variety. Monster might have ended terribly when, in fact, Kore-eda's humanistic instinct has been at work all along. Nicely done. Nicely fucking done. This film is created with a great moral intelligence and humanity. Thanks, Peter from The Guardian. Could you fucking be more goddamn vague? Holy cow, man. But anyway, come to a close. I'm kind of pissed that we didn't talk about this more at the Oscars. I felt like it didn't get the love that it truly deserved, and that's not okay. That's not okay for your boy. To me, much like Shoplifters, there's to a certain degree, I feel like this is, I don't know, one of the very best dramas that you're going to see anytime soon. Like, at least in the past few years, like, if you held a gun to my head, out of 10, you only get 10 movies. This would be in the 10 in the sense that I'm not sure that I've seen a better executed film in recent memory. It's poignant, it's absorbing, a masterful work of intricate storytelling, and we need more of that these days. I don't like the idea that somebody said it was kind of like Christopher Nolan, and not because Christopher Nolan does action films and this is just a pure drama through and through. I feel like we only did that because there's time shifts and people are like, oh, it's like Memento. It's not. It's not at all. So don't go in being like, oh, this movie I listened to the Ella Cinema podcast and he said it was kind of like Memento. I didn't say that. I said someone sounded like that's how they internalized this film, is that it was a fucking back and forth time switcheroo, and it's not. It's, in fact, it's very silky how we go from time jump to time jump in Monster. It's silky. It's smooth, man. Like, it's not done in a jarring way. In fact, if you're using your phone as a second screen, I would argue that the jumps or the shifts in Monster are subtle enough, you'd miss it, and you wouldn't know what the hell's going on. So, anyway, Monster is available now on Blu-ray. Thank you, Welgo USA, for releasing this. What's so funny is after I got done watching it, I got an email from Welgo saying that they were releasing it, and I was like, oh, I can't fucking wait to talk about this on film, or on the podcast. Talk about this film on the podcast. Ella Cinema, Monster, available now. No excuse. One of the best films you will watch in the last 10 years. Ella Cinema, we gone.